Welcome back to Forgotten Working Class Podcast. My name is Tiffany.
I'm John.
Today we have with us Danny from DHK Welds. You can see Danny on YouTube, TikTok, and all over the internet. He is truly incredible, and we're so lucky to have him here with us today. Danny, thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm pretty excited to be here myself.
John is fascinated with your beard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get you there one of these. We'll get you there, John.
I wish. I've tried. I got buddies that can grow nice beards. Now it comes in all white trash, and now since, this is all burned, I only get to start here now.
Oh, yeah. Have to do a goatee to start out with or something.
This is what I got right now. It's all right.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Right? Any facial hair is better than no facial hair.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So, Danny, where are you calling from?
I am down here in a hospital called Post-Acute Medical. I'm down here in Denver, Colorado. It is a specialty wound facility. I had a pressure wound popped up in July, and we've been fighting it. And I had a bone infection and had a bunch of surgeries, had my tailbone actually removed, all kinds of crazy stuff. And now I had my final surgery, and final, I'm hoping at least, and we're healing up now down here in Denver, Colorado.
That's crazy. Are you from Colorado?
No, I'm actually not. I'm actually from Wyoming, but I've been down to Colorado a lot for my healthcare because healthcare in Colorado is phenomenal. Wyoming's pretty small, and on that side of things doesn't have a lot to offer when it comes to specialty, care like this.
How old are you today?
I am 30 years old. I'm an old man.
With that luscious beard.
Yeah, now I'm really young. I'm 35.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep, 30 years old.
So, Danny, you're an incredible welder, and you've done so much for our youth. And, excuse me, I thought that was off. I apologize. You have done so much for our youth in instructing and teaching them about welding and blue-collar trade. How did you get into that?
Yeah, well, it's a huge story. I'm glad I'm here on the podcast to tell it, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been a welder all my life. There's a huge background and stories along with that. But when I got started, I co-founded a welding school called Western Welding Academy in Gillette, Wyoming, my hometown, with a fellow by the name of Tyler Sassy. And it was not something I really knew much about teaching. I never thought I was a teacher. And it was pretty phenomenal to get that opportunity to start it up from nothing to what it is today, because I have a pretty big passion for, I don't know, maybe I just have a big heart or something. I really liked helping people out. I liked, doing things for people. And I really seen my passion in helping in the welding industry with my helpers, from years back, whether it be, the helper I had, a couple years ago or 5-10 years ago. I really liked helping my helper become a welder, which usually a welder's helper is someone that is kind of an apprentice. They're gonna be with the welder for, anywhere from a year to 5 years, and they kind of just go along with the welder and help them out, do different tasks, whether it be menial labor all the way up and do a high-end math and stuff like that for prints. And I found that passion with my helpers that I really like to see them succeed. And so when I got the opportunity to start a welding school, at first I was like, oh no, I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't have the gift. I'm just a dumb welder, as a lot of people say. So I got a chance to start that school, and I did pretty good at it. It was pretty amazing. I met a lot of really talented welders, a lot of talented kids. I loved the fact that even though I could meet these talented kids, I could give them a little bit of knowledge that I have to make their lives better, to make their careers better, stuff like that. And it kind of morphed into a huge social media and marketing thing with my company, to where, Gillette, Wyoming doesn't really have a lot of people in it. So I had to bring in a lot of students from different parts of the world. And yeah, anyway, long story short, I got on social media, and my marketing team discovered that people like the beard, I guess, and it kind of just took off from there. And one of the biggest things I told myself once I started seeing traction with that, because I seen it happen to a lot of people, was, well, I've done it my whole career, was to stay humble. Don't let the, not that I'm famous by any means, but don't let any of the power or anything go to my
Yeah.
head. So I told myself that, and I relayed that message to a lot of my students too. And I think it resonated with a lot of people, and here we are today doing crazy cool stuff. Now I'm in a hospital, but paralyzed. I'm a C6 quadriplegic, but the story gets better as the days go on, I guess.
Absolutely. How
Incredible.
inspiring. So I guess we're gonna jump all over the place. You mentioned you're paralyzed. Do you want to start with how that happened?
Yeah. So I got paralyzed July 21st, 2022, and it was my bachelor party of all things, believe it or not. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we were actually up in South Dakota, and sorry, my hat's crooked. I look like a dweeb. We were up in the hills. We were up in the hills of South Dakota. I had a Can-Am X3 Maverick. It's a 4-seater looking awesome little rig. It's, use it kind of like a Jeep almost, go up through the trails. We were up in Deadwood Lead area, and my buddy, one of my best friends since grade school, his name is Eric. He had a razor, which a lot of people are more familiar with. He had a razor, and we were coming down these pretty rocky trails, real big rocks, real sharp rocks, and it just so happens that one of them sharp rocks got his tire and popped a tire. Anyway, he had to be down for a second, so we were gonna run back to the Airbnb to get a trailer and a truck to pick up his Can-Am or his razor. And I was helping him work on his razor, and I turned around and I was gonna hop in my rig, and I seen my best man, my best friend, best man in the wedding even. He was in the driver's seat, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing, man? And he's like, I'm driving. And I'm like, no, you ain't. Anyway, we sat there and argued for a little bit. I got in the back seat and put my seatbelt on and everything, and started making our way back to the Airbnb, the house where we had the trailers. We were coming up on a turn on a gravel road and a county road. And if you guys know how it is, maybe if you guys know how it is to drive in snow, or, the gravel was really,
Uh-oh.
the gravel was really, what would you call it? Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay.
Was loose, and the gravel was loose. And my buddy tried turning, but, as you can know in snow or gravel, that when you try turning, sometimes you just don't get a go. Your wheels don't turn, whatever, like that. And so, anyway, he tried turning, couldn't turn, so he straightened up. I watched him. He was playing with the steering wheel, and we went off the side of a mountain up in South Dakota, went off the edge of that, rolled, I don't know how, several times, and my seatbelt actually malfunctioned. Thanks a lot, Can-Am. And I got ejected, and I didn't really get passed out, but I woke up with I was kind of laying on my stomach with my hands right by my face right here. And these weird glasses I wear, they're laying up by, kind of up by the top of my head over kind of the right side of me. And they're all covered in blood and stuff. And I'll never forget that. And the crazy thing about being paralyzed, I'm a C6, is where my injury level is. And a lot of people don't know a lot about it, but a lot of people with the higher injury levels die actually because of the loss of their diaphragm, which you guys might know a little bit about this. Anyway, you lose your diaphragm. Sometimes you lose your ability to breathe. Luckily, they said I have really strong lungs, everything like that, and I obviously could breathe, or I wouldn't be here today probably, but I couldn't yell. I couldn't talk real loud. I couldn't even talk as loud as I'm talking right now. And so I'm sitting there in the brush and the trees, and there's a little tiny puddle of blood, as crazy as it sounds, little tiny puddle of blood in my glasses off to the right of me. And I'm sitting there and I'm yelling. I'm not yelling. I'm trying to yell, but it's kind of weird. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't move, obviously. Couldn't do anything. And I'm sitting there and I'm yelling. I'm yelling, help, help, help. And, but it's not real loud. It kind of comes out as almost like a gasp, like help,
Yeah.
help, but real quiet. So it took my friends about 20 minutes to find me.
Oh my God.
If you guys, yeah, pretty wild, pretty scary at first.
Yeah.
So anyway, found me on the side of that mountain. I told my one buddy, here's the crazy, funniest part of the story. I was like, hey, Brad, I was like, grab my glasses, dude. I was like, if they made it through the wreck, there's something special about these glasses. I was like, put them in your pocket. Don't freaking lose them. Everyone with glasses, like, don't break my glasses. Anyway, so I get on an ambulance. They actually had to cut down a few trees to get to me and stuff like that. By then, I actually had some pretty severe pain. My pain level, all I could feel was right above my chest up. Below that, at that point, I don't remember any pain, but obviously I might have had some. But the pain that I could feel was pretty wild. It was, if you can imagine, it felt like, getting your skin ripped up and like razor blades and salt. That's all I can explain. And fire, maybe. It was pretty terrible pain. I kept asking for pain meds or something, and they finally gave me they actually weren't supposed to give it to me. When I got into the life flight helicopter, they gave me some morphine, and the morphine finally knocked me out, and I was in that helicopter, and they life flighted me to Rapid City, South Dakota, where I had my surgery. And I remember waking up to Dr. Taplin. She was my surgeon, and she was kind of, over top of me and talking me through about basically everything that just happened in the last 24 hours, telling me that, the statistics and that I was going to probably, lose use of my arms and stuff like that after surgery. And she's probably giving me the worst case scenario is what I found out doctors like to do.
Yes.
And
Oh yeah.
yeah, you guys probably can relate.
Oh yes, they traumatized me.
Yeah, so it's pretty scary in that moment. You feel a little hopeless, but I had all my friends and my family with me at that point. They made it back to the hospital, and so my doctor did surgery, and me being the smart aleck welder I got out of surgery, woke up, and I started noticing, I was like, my left arm, I had a lot of movement in my left arm, a lot of strength, everything. My right arm, I didn't have much after surgery. I actually couldn't even lift it up over my head. Anyway, I woke up after surgery, or however they bring you to, and Dr. Taplin, she's a little Asian lady, such a sweetheart. She's looking over top of me again, looking at me, and I'm looking back at her. And before she could say anything, I think she said, "Well, Danny," or something like that. And I said, "Look, doctor," I said, "look, my arms are moving again." And that was just me telling her that I made it through surgery better than the statistics said that I would. And yeah, the story goes on from there. I went to Craig. What about you guys? You guys had a little bit of a rehabilitation. Where are you guys located, I guess? Now, just because I'd like to know now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one question though. How many
Yeah.
surgeries have you had in the last year?
Say that again. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. How many surgeries have you had?
I've had different surgeries, but if you count my original surgery with my spinal cord injury, I've had 5 surgeries. But my other surgeries aren't exactly related. Obviously, it was a sacral pressure wound and bone infection and stuff that got me my other surgeries. But I've had 5.
And you had no head trauma?
No head trauma. I mean, yep, I have a dent right here on my head, which I don't know if you can see it in this video. Right there, I have a dent, and I had like 3 stitches. That's it. Luckily, no brain trauma, no head trauma besides a little cut, I suppose. So.
You're so lucky.
That's awesome.
You probably weren't wearing a helmet, were you?
What? No, I wasn't actually wearing a helmet.
Very
I
lucky.
should have
Right.
been.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
lucky.
I mean,
Yeah. I think about that all the time because being on that, I was on the 4th floor in Craig Rehab in Colorado, and the 3rd floor was the brain trauma section, and I didn't know much about it, but as I got to be there on the weekends, I started hanging out a little more. Down on the 3rd floor, wasn't supposed to be, and I started hanging out with some of the patients, hanging out with some of the doctors, and kind of started learning a little bit more about that, and I am insanely blessed that I haven't had any brain trauma or anything like that because of the wreck, or in general in life, because it's got to be the hardest thing in the world.
And your ability to grow a beard, you didn't lose that either.
Yeah, still got that. Yeah, thank goodness.
You're so awesome, Danny. I'm so sorry this happened to you, but you're persevering. Like, we see you welding and you're truly incredible. You're right back to it.
I love it.
Are you a righty or a lefty?
So I am a right-hander, and my left hand was the strongest. I like I said, I had no triceps. Obviously, I got them now. I'm pretty much normal. My right hand's actually stronger now, right arm, and I had to, for about a year, about 6 months, I actually adapted my left arm to be my dominant arm, which was difficult. And now slowly my right arm has gotten better. So now I'm back to being a right arm quadriplegic.
That had to be so hard
Yeah.
to switch to your left hand to weld. If I tried to weld with my left hand, I don't even think I would get in the groove. It would be like all over the place. There would be no bead.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even think about this until now, but now that you say that, being my welding background, I had to learn how to weld with my left arm because of the terrible situations, tight places,
Yeah.
up against a wall, hanging from a ceiling, stuff like that. I wonder if maybe that wasn't a blessing too, because
That
being
helped you.
pre-trained, maybe,
Being ambidextrous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very hard. I broke my arm when I was younger and I had to learn how to write with my left, and I can still pretty much use my left.
No,
Oh, yeah.
not at all. My left arm, it's useless. I can't throw a ball with it. There's no welding with the left arm. Write my name, you wouldn't know what I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm terrible at it.
I'm a little bit like that. My lefty's not as good as she used to be, for sure.
So yeah, back to your question. We're down in South Florida, actually West Palm Beach. And
Oh, how awesome.
yeah, have you ever been to Florida?
I have been to Florida, Miami. I've been to a bunch of conferences and stuff down in that area. St. Augustine, obviously, is beautiful. I love that area. I think the farthest south I've been is Miami.
Okay, that's where they life flighted him to.
Yeah,
They
Miami.
originally brought him to a hospital here in West Palm and then took him 2 hours south to Miami.
Okay. Wow. How would if you don't mind me asking, how'd you get burned? You got burned and
So I was electrocuted.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was a miner. I worked on heavy equipment. The equipment I worked on, they run off of 4160 volts.
Okay.
And I was working on a machine. I was in this machine where high voltage comes in, working, electrocuted. No one knows how. I have no clue. I just woke up in the hospital out of the coma. I was in a coma for 9 days. Woke up out of the coma, and the first thing I told her, which I couldn't even talk, I had the trach in my throat.
Yep.
I told her I gotta get to work. I'm gonna be late.
He thought he was going to work. He had his head all bandaged. He was oozing from his face.
My face was like melting off, and she's like, "You're not going anywhere." And I was like, "No, I have to go to work. I'm gonna be late. Like, what time is it?" And she was like, "No, you're in the hospital." I was like, "Oh, all right."
So they told me all the worst scenarios, basically planning his funeral, everything. We had a 1-year-old and an 8-year-old at the time, so it was completely crazy. You had head reconstruction where they extracted his latissimus muscle from his back, his lat muscle.
Okay.
The whole muscle, and used it as a head flap to cover his skull because of where he was electrocuted.
Yeah, all the tissue was burnt right off.
Show him your head. So, you don't gotta.
Well, you can't really see that great. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It burned all the way to here. All this. And then, so you said you have a dent in your head. Right.
Yeah.
So if you look right here, I can get a good angle of it. Can you see it move?
Oh, yep. Yeah.
So there's a hole in my skull now where I was electrocuted. After I was out of the hospital, it absorbed itself. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's like a hole about that big. So
So through his lat muscle, which they put as a head flap on his head, it actually absorbed with his skull in that area. So now his brain is what's
it's right there.
pulsing up and down.
Holy cow.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a piece I put in my baseball hats that protects my head. You have no clue it's even in there. It looks normal, but it goes in every hat I have.
Even like a ball cap too. Do you have to wear them in a ball cap too?
Yeah, I can use any ball cap I have. I can put it in there. It's called a bump cap.
Okay.
So it works great. You don't even know. You it just feels like you're wearing a normal hat,
Yeah.
and nobody can see it. So no, I'm not walking around with a helmet on my head.
Yeah. Well, that's that's good.
Yeah.
But you were
Yeah.
a welder, obviously not. Nobody's as good as Danny.
Yeah, I wasn't on your level, but I did a lot of weld. I did a lot of stick welding.
Okay.
That's what we did out there was majority of stick, and then you're welding rust to rust, and maybe you'll have a clean sheet of metal that has to get welded to the halfway rusted metal, and
Yep.
a lot of field work.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've
Yeah.
spent many times welding outside. That's my best. Well, mainly all my career was welding outside. Uh, I did a little. I welded. I called it junk iron. Anything rusty and junky.
Yep.
I've welded my share of junk iron, and I don't know. Sometimes that stuff's fun though too. Well, you learn different techniques. You learn
Exactly.
ways to adapt and overcome because of that
Yep.
rust and dirt and grease.
How old were you when you started welding?
Oh golly, my first weld that I ever made, I was 8 years old, obviously, or I was 8 years old was my first weld I ever made, and it wasn't pretty. You guys remember that old show on Discovery Channel, The American Choppers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always loved watching that. And it gave me my inspiration to work on stuff, and I was a little redneck kid, grew up out in the country, everything like that. And I always thought it was cool to work with my hands, but I didn't really know. But it kind of gave me my drive to kind of build things. And I discovered that I really didn't like working on stuff, changing alternators out or whatever on cars. I enjoyed it, but I loved building things with steel and iron. And that show gave me my first little inspiration. My dad had an old Forney stick welder out in the shop. It was an AC machine, and you actually plugged your cables into the amperage selection you wanted. And I played around with different welding rods, and made my first spider web. I was playing just like the bike they made. I made a steel spider web about the size of a dinner plate out of a whole bunch of old rebar and stuff like that. So I made that, kind of started welding, playing around, and then I kept doing it from there. And I discovered that out of all the blue collar jobs welding, to me, I had a very artistic background, and that artistic part of me kind of came out in my welding, not so much in sculpture, maybe a little bit, but more in the technique and just how beautiful welds are.
Yeah.
And I loved it. The colors, the fire at the beginning when you weld and all that stuff. I just discovered, I'm like, this welding's me. Welding's what I want to do. Welding is Danny Keiderling.
It's like a therapy. You once you drop that hood, you're zoned in, and I mean, you're just sitting there, and you're in your own world.
Used to come home and get like the Whiz cheese cans.
Oh yeah, well,
and you weld on his crackers.
There you go. Yeah.
he was asking me one day about what is welding. I don't understand. I was like, we're sitting,
That was like 10 years ago.
It was just after dinner, and I was like, well, I don't know how I can explain to you. And I was like, I got it. Hold on. Grab a can of that Whiz cheese, put 2 crackers together, put you a bead in there. That's it. She was like, okay.
Yeah. And then you let me weld before, which was really cool.
You've welded a few times?
Yeah.
What kind of welding did you do?
Oh, really shitty ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. That brings me. I got a really cool story I want to share with you guys. That welding really is a therapy. And when I got home from the hospital after rehab, I was 45 days after my accident. They discharged me, and I got to go home. And I live up in the hills of Wyoming, real beautiful area, but no neighbors, no nothing. My wife at the time, she my wife at the time, she had to go to work, obviously. So I was home alone a lot, just sitting there, me and the dog, actually. Sometimes me and my baby, but my baby was 6 months old at that time, 7 months old when I discharged. And so at that time, I couldn't really take care of her like I can now. And so I was stuck there with the dog. But I had a really good friend of mine. He was actually a student I used to have in school. He was breaking out into the welding industry. Breaking out is a term I use a lot. He was building a welding bed for his welding truck, and it's a flatbed basically for anyone out there that doesn't know what a welding bed is. It's a flatbed. You got toolboxes on it, stuff like that. It was kind of crazy. He came out to my house. He's like, "Hey, can I borrow your shop, use your welder?" I'm like, "Of course." You know what I mean? I said, but only under one stipulation. And he's like, "Yeah, what's that?" And I was like, "You got to let me weld." And he's like, "You think you can?" And I was like, "I think I can." And it was crazy. We were just MIG welding, which is a semi-automated welding where a wire feeds through a gun, and a gas, self-shielding gas goes around the arc. And anyway, long story short, where he had a really nice long seam on the edge of his bed, and I took that MIG gun, and he was trying to help me, and I was at that point I had very little movement in my arms. I didn't really know how to do anything with my hands, and I was struggling hardcore. We finally got it to where it sat in my hand decent, and I could push the trigger. And so I was struggling. Then again, I put my hood down, and it was kind of crazy. I was like, "This is going to be terrible. This is going to be the worst weld ever. I can barely. I'm not even strong enough to hold up this MIG gun." And I started going, and I couldn't even press the button, and it was starting to spatter and spit and all kinds of ugliness. And then all of a sudden, I got the trigger pushed, and I just started welding. And I was like, "Holy cow!" And it just seemed like it was normal again. Like, I
Right
don't even
back
know how
to
to
it.
explain it. Yeah, like it was
Yeah.
like my hands worked, everything was normal again. I swear to God, guys. And it wasn't. It was just Danny Keiderling welding again, and I'll never forget that. I'm like, damn. And I just started welding, and it was a beautiful weld. I have it on my social media. The very first weld that I made post rehab and everything like that, it was eye opening to me, because it was a lot of stuff that you had to do along with that weld, and it was kind of cool. It was amazing that I could still do it. It kind of gave me hope, and
Yeah, it's
Your
welding
passion.
is therapy.
well
It's my
that
passion for sure.
it must have been like the most amazing feeling, because you were just told, in the hospital, you're never going to be, you're not going to use your arms and this and that. And then you come out and bang, you're right into it and just killing it. You're like, yes. It's
Yeah,
like it never left you.
it's it that's exact they told me a lot of things in the hospital. Maybe whether I remember one time they told me I'd have to get a van because my right arm had no strength. So they're like, "You're going to need to get an electric wheelchair and a van, because they're easier to get into. You can't get into a truck, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Damn, that's not Danny Keiderling." And I was mad when I left that therapy session. My wife at the time, she was trying to calm me down. I was so mad at that therapist for telling me that. But now, now I'm driving. I got a 1971 Chevelle. I drive that
Woo.
on the weekends sometimes when I'm not in the hospital. Uh, I I got strength obviously back in my arm. Everything, my arms work good. I can propel myself. I haven't been in my electric wheelchair. It's kind of a, I don't know. I don't I don't like it. I don't something mentally for me. I try to stay away from that wheelchair, but I haven't been in my electric wheelchair for 9 months,
That's
which is
Awesome.
pretty,
awesome.
which is a big feat for me. A lot of people give up when when you can't use your hands, can't hardly do anything for yourself. A lot of people do give up. Something kept me going, and it's been pretty fulfilling, pretty cool. I love, obviously, you guys seen some of it. I don't know how much of the social media you guys have been seeing of mine, but I love being able to share that with well, first of all, it started out with a welding community. Then it morphed into a welding a student teacher community, and now it's kind of morphed into a huge community out there of welders, handicapped people, depressed people, people in
Yes.
wheelchairs, just people in general. And I loved kind of showing them my progress, failures, stuff like that along the way with my social media, because it kind of I don't know, kind of, they told me that a long time ago when I was doing my videos at the school. I got a little humility or whatever they say, to where I don't care what goes on the camera, and I post it and show people the world. And my stuff is not very edited, not very good. It's all done by me.
That's us.
You
Yeah.
can you can kind of see it, and it's just real, and I love it. I love it because it helps other people out.
You are so motivating,
That's-
and that's why I really, I wanted you to come on, because
That's why we
you
started
and
this
John,
podcast.
you and John have a lot in common,
Yeah.
more than what we just touched based on. He was raised up north in the sticks as well, and like welding, and people telling you you're not going to do something, and you showed them, like, watch me do it. Like, you're incredible. Thank you so much.
I do have to ask you now.
Yeah.
You said you got a Chevelle.
Yep.
Did you have to do anything to it for you to drive it?
Yeah, so about 4 months ago, we drove up to South Dakota again, Rapid City, and we had hand controls put in it, which really simple is go down to your throttle and your gas, and pushing on a little stick, basically, kind of like a joystick almost, except it's a little bit different. It kind of pivots off your steering wheel, and you just the stick, you grab it, and you push forward for gas, or I'm sorry, you push forward for brake. It's been a while since I've driven, obviously, and then pull back for gas. And then I got a special thing. Like I said, I got tenodesis, but my fingers don't move. I can't really grab anything, but I can grab stuff with my Tino, not with like normal people have grasp and muscles. I don't have any of that, so my hands can't grab a steering wheel. So there's a thing called a tri-pin in it. They used to call them, you probably know what they are, John, the suicide knobs that they put on tractors.
Oh yeah.
So there's a tri-pin with
put your hand
slides into it. Yep, and I can steer my steering wheel.
So old steering wheels used to have it, right?
Yeah, they're. You can't have a suicide knob anymore on your car. They're kind of outlawed. You're not allowed to have that.
Well, you have to have an endorsement on your license. That's what I got.
You have to have a reason to have it.
Yep. You got to have the hand control and a knob endorsement.
When I was younger, I had a stepfather who was handicapped, and he had muscular dystrophy. So through his years of life, it got worse and worse and worse, and he ended up being into a wheelchair. And he was a huge gearhead. Hot rods, cars. He had, old Monte Carlos. That was his jam. That's it. So when they finally told him, there's really no more driving, and your option is a van, he was the same way. He was pissed. This is ridiculous. This isn't a van is not my style.
Yeah. So
they were like, you can have somebody drive you around in it. So he picked out it was the Chevy at the time. What was it, like a 2000 Chevy, the van, the Mach 3, which was like the coolest looking van you could get for, handicap accessibility.
Yep.
And he told them, he's like, listen, ain't nobody gonna drive me around. I want to drive. So they made the exact same way, and that's why I asked you, because he had the hand throttle, the throttle back, brake forward. He had the same setup on his wheel, and then he had a thing where he would drive his wheelchair in, and there was a bolt on the bottom of his wheelchair that would lock him in, so then the wheelchair wouldn't move. So yeah, that's why I was asking you, because I was like, I wonder if you had that same setup since you're not able to use your feet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the same setup steering wise. Luckily, that's what they wanted me to have, actually, when they were talking about the van and everything, because I didn't have mobility enough in my arms to really move my body very well out of a chair into a chair. But I'm getting a little better now. I can do some transfers, they call them, and so luckily with them transfers, I kind of slide up to my car with my wheelchair, or I kind of roll up to my wheelchair or my car, and I just pop out of that chair with a slide board into the seat and kind of get my feet positioned, and that's how I can get in and out. Obviously, my friends help me out a lot when they're around, and I haven't got to the point where I'm driving every day yet. I'm actually working on getting my truck modified next. If I wouldn't have been in the hospital this go around, I would have had my truck modified. But with the modification, it's pretty cool. The seat actually will come out of my truck, and it'll actually lower down right next to the driver's door, and it'll be the same level as my wheelchair, and I can slide over, and it'll actually pick me back up, put me back into my truck, and from there on, it's hand controls. My wheelchair, there's a little cherry picker. If you guys don't know what cherry picker, it's kind of you probably know what cherry picker is, John, but it's a little arm that swings out and around, and it'll swing over to the chair, and you clip it on with a little clevis, picks it up, puts it in the back of the truck, and then you can go do your thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
so sick.
Wow. Do you have a breakout date for the hospital?
I don't have a breakout date, a discharge date here yet, but I have a tentative one around Thanksgiving. So I'm hoping I can be out of this place around Thanksgiving, so I can go home and have a Friendsgiving and a Thanksgiving with my friends and family. But if not, I guess I'll just have to DoorDash some ribeye steaks or something, because I don't eat turkey. I don't like that stuff. So.
I don't like turkey either.
No, it's not our thing either. Yeah.
Jeez. Well, you have such an amazing laugh and smile for having to sit there, and you're truly such an inspiration.
Thank you.
I don't know if you had the chance to go on our website and take a look at our apparel, but we have a saying, and it's called blue collar blood type. And Danny, you are absolutely the blood type.
Yep.
You have been welding since you were 8 years old. It never, none of this ever stopped you. You are blue collar blood type, and we will definitely be sending you some stuff.
I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Blue collar blood type. I'll say that in a couple videos, guys. I have a saying too. It started in my videos for the school. See on the next weld. You guys probably have seen. It's not quite as catchy as blue collar blood type, but I like that a lot. That's really, really cool, guys.
Well,
yeah, he had 7 blood transfusions, so it got me thinking, like, blue collar is a blood type. Like, you survived this shit. You wanted to go back to work. Like, nothing was stopping him in that moment. He swore he was going to get out of bed, rip everything out.
Oh, yeah.
So a couple years later, when I thought of the apparel line, I'm like, blue collar's a fucking blood type. Like, you guys are unstoppable.
But the company's name is Arcing Ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Arcing Ahead.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
A lot of people, they're like, I don't get it. What's an arc? And I'm like, arc, welding, electricity. And they're like, nope. I'm like, all right, well,
it arced to his head.
Put jumper cables together and smack them. You'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's your arc.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. That reminds me, when I woke up too, I was pretty worried. And believe it or not, like, third person in my ICU room, which, long story, I had COVID also. They discovered I had COVID while I had spinal cord injury when I got injured. So I was in the special part of the ICU, and my third person to my room was actually my boss at the time. I had started working.
Oh no.
You're frozen.
All right, well, that was our guest, Danny.
Nope.
I don't see it coming back on.
He's still on.
Oh, sorry about that.
There he is. Okay, we're back.
Sorry about that. My mom keeps calling me. She's down here with my baby girl Emberly. She's down here visiting me, and she keeps calling me, which kills our video conference.
That's all right. If you need to go, we understand.
No, well, I'm good. She'll be all right. I just texted her actually. But yeah, blue collar. I just wanted to share this. The third person back into my ICU room was my boss at the time, Trent Jones. Shout him out. He's a phenomenal dude. I love him. He was the third person in my hospital room, and I was all worried talking to him. I was the welder foreman for him, so I had to explain what was going on with jobs and hours and what people were doing and all kinds of craziness. And he told me, he's like, dude, I'm not here to talk to you about that kind of stuff. He's like, I'm here to make sure you're all right. You know what I mean? And it's kind of crazy, you know what I mean? He's I only worked for him a week and a half, believe it or not. I just got separated from my welding school that I started, and I worked for him for a week and a half. I just got my welding truck. I put a new transmission in it, all kinds of stuff. It was kind of a shit show, and I worked for him a week and a half, and that dude made it to the all the way up to South Dakota to say hi to me. And
That's amazing.
yeah, so huge shout out to him. He was, I don't know, pretty cool. He's a good friend of mine now. I tell everyone he's one of my good friends, and
It's a good person.
yeah,
Hands
Yeah.
down, he's a good person.
yeah, and good blue collar person too. He's got that blue collar blood type.
That's right.
Absolutely. Everyone check out arcingheadapparel.com. Blue collar, it's a blood type.
Amen.
It's real.
Cheers. Yeah, that's crazy. I got a little apparel company I started probably 5-6 months ago. DHK Welds, obviously. DHKWelds.com is how you get to it. But that's funny. You guys, did you use the? Have you guys always wanted to do that, or like, what's your inspiration? I guess to start that apparel company, was it just to get awareness, or?
Well, it was something that we kind of wanted to start a business because we're like, well, I'm not going back to what I was doing, so let's start something. And then once we came up with the idea and it started to grow, it was like, all right, well, now I want to be able to show appreciation to the blue collar trades that you don't see shirts for, you don't hear about. You might have heard people talk about it, but no one has a shirt to rep them. So, we've come out with like the pipeline, we have the welder, we have oil rig, truckers,
mechanic. We have it all.
farm.
Mining industry.
Yep.
We have all the super dangerous jobs, really. I mean, welding too. You talked about being upside down. Blue collar is so dangerous, and so we promote safety. Then once we started the apparel line, we only started this year. We're in 2023. Yeah. So then after the kickoff of the apparel line, we're like, hey, it's time to talk about who we are. It's time to create a community of those who have been injured or those who are still working. John's bored from not being able to work. The apparel line is fun, but let's get some guys on here and women on here that we can hear what they're doing now in their life, whether they've been injured or still at work, talk to people from all over the world and just make new friends.
Yeah, it's to
raise awareness.
That's what it is. It's to let you guys, whoever comes on the podcast, this is your time to shine. This is your show. You have control. We want to hear everything you've done. We want to hear what you do. So that way people can understand what blue collar really is, because not a lot of people, you get looked down on as a blue collar man or woman.
Yeah.
People look at you like, oh, you work with grease and dirt. Cool. Yeah, well, the grease and dirt that I work with runs the country,
Pays the bills.
The ones out here busting my ass every day.
Yeah, it's a shame. I've kind of done a lot of research on it, actually. Back in the 70s is kind of where it started. Everyone shamed everyone kind of, and all that stuff. If you were into conspiracy theorists with the mega rich, all that stuff, all the, the push to go to school and create that unwanted need for schooling really put a downplay on blue collar in general, or anyone really that even did any physical labor, not just even blue collar. I think about the nurses and even the doctors, I guess you would say, but the nurses and the techs and stuff that take care of you when you're in the hospital, like in the 70s, and and it kind of evolved from there. And they're like, oh, you got to go to school, work smarter, not harder, and I've done a lot of research and I hate it. And one of my favorite sayings that one of my favorite people said, Mike Rose, says, he said it in a Skills USA in 2011 in a big, huge conference. There's about 30,000 people, and I was a little speck up on the top of the top row in the nosebleeds. And I was in high school at the time, or no, college, sorry. And I remember seeing him there. He made a surprise entrance at this huge event for blue collar people for kids and college kids and high school kids. And he made a huge, big speech, and I'll never forget the one thing he said. And it's a really simple saying, but he said, he's like, everyone wants you to work smarter, not harder. And he's like, I want everyone here in this room to work smarter and harder. And it resonated with me for golly, I was what 18 years old at the time, and it was pretty freaking fulfilling to see that. And it made a lot of sense to me because all my life, growing up in the sticks, up in the north, wherever, I didn't really, not that I wasn't smart. I guess I don't know. I consider myself fairly intelligent. Not the most intelligent. Definitely no Elon Musk, but I always thought, yeah, there's, don't be ashamed to working with your hands. Don't be ashamed to,
Exactly.
weld. That's what keeps the world going. And there's art to it. There's beauty to it. There's amazing things that go with working with your hands.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love
Danny,
it.
I can't say it enough. You are such an inspiration, and
Awesome
thank you for
dude.
joining us.
Thank you.
We
Yeah,
wish
thank
you
you so much
nothing
for
but
having
the
me. Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, is there anything else you want to say?
It's been a while since I've been on a podcast, guys. So I really, other than thank you, I just want to maybe shout out some people. Like I said, Trent Jones, my good friend Greg Doherty, some of the people. Alex Cisneros is one of my best friends. Some good people that's been helping me through this. I wouldn't exactly be where I am without them today. Shout you guys out, the Blue Collar Bloodline, everything. I can't thank you guys enough. Other than that. I like to end a lot of my videos. I don't know if we can end this one, but I always say a special saying, and you guys probably know it. We'll see you on the next weld.
There you go.
Absolutely. We'll see you on the next weld with DHK. This is Danny from DHK Welds.
Thank you,
Have
guys.
a good one.
Thank you, Danny, for being here.
Yep, thank you so much. I'll see you again.
Yes, absolutely.
Have a good day.
You too.
Have a good one.